So these are the offerings. See, I'm not going to dwell a whole lot on this today, but just look at this for a minute. These are the burnt offerings of pleasant aroma to Yahweh. And whenever it says pleasant aroma or something like that, the Hebrew words are reach nichoach. I mean, that is like, to me, that always just sounds wonderful. Reach nichoach. So daily, 2 male lambs, with the grain offerings, fine flour mixed with oil, and a drink offering. You take strong drink, like a shot of whiskey, and you pour it out. However much that is, a quarter part of a hen, I don't know how big that is, but I don't think it's very much, a little bit, But it's like a shot of whiskey. Okay, so on Shabbat, you do the same thing again. But on Shabbat, you do the daily offering and the Shabbat offering. So it's like 2 and 2. On Rosh Chodesh, which is the new moon, you do, and this is all in our Parsha. It lays all these out in our Parsha this week. You do the 2 young bulls, 1 ram, 7 male lambs, and then you do the grain offerings, 1 for each animal, and it tells how much flour for each one. Drink offerings. Now these are not strong drink. This is wine for these for the new moon. Plus 1 male goat to make atonement for you as a sin offering. Then Pesach. So we come to Pesach, and then we have on the 14th day. Then the 15th day is the first month. The first month for 7 days is Matzot. The first day is you got the 2 young bulls, the 1 ram, the 7 male lambs, and then you got a grain offering for each one, and possibly drink offerings, but it doesn't mention them. Plus the regular daily offerings. All this for 7 days, and in the middle of this somewhere, there's going to be a Shabbat, and then you do the Shabbat offerings too. So it all, keeps going. Okay, if you kill a lamb, there's going to be like blood, right? And if you kill a bull, there's going to be blood. And this is a bloody mess. All the time. So just think about that. This is what's going on. Now on Shavuot, you got 2 young bulls, 1 ram, 7 male lambs, plus the grain offerings, plus the regular daily offerings, plus the drink offerings maybe, plus the male goat to make atonement. I don't know if I said that right. Now, Yom Teruah, we got 1 bull, 1 ram, 7 male lambs. You got the grain offerings. You got the male goat as a sin offering. Yom Kippur, you got the 1 young bull, 1 ram, 7 male lambs. You got their grain offerings, also the regular daily offerings. Sukkot, this is where it gets heavy duty. So the first day of Sukkot, dwell in booths, 13 young bulls. A bull is pretty big. Now, I'm assuming that everybody gets to eat this meat. I hope so. But, like if you want to know who's the best people at barbecuing in this world, right? You know what I'm saying? They got practice, these Jews. Okay, so then you got the grain offerings, and then as it goes down, the young bulls, it starts at 13 and it goes down 1 less bull each day, but you still got all these days, plus the daily offerings. Then there's going to be a Shabbat in there somewhere. And 5th day of Sukkot, 6th day of Sukkot, 7th day of Sukkot, they bring it all the way down to you only do 7 young bulls on the last day. And grain offerings, drink offerings, a regular daily offering, male goat offering for a sin offering. 8th day, also known as Shemini Atzeret, or we also call it Simchat Torah. That's not a biblical thing, but that's what we call it. Do no regular work, it's a solemn assembly. There's 1 bull, 1 ram, 7 male lambs. Then their flour offering, grain offerings, and the drink offerings, the sin offering. And then in conclusion, at the bottom of the page, it says, you shall offer these to Yahweh in your set feasts, in addition to your vows and your freewill offerings, for your burnt offerings or grain offerings or drink offerings and your peace offerings. So these are commanded offerings of Elohim, of Yahweh. So now I'll start teaching what I wrote down. The portion for this week is called Pinchas. As you know, Pinchas was a wonderful godly man who delivered the judgment of God on those two adulterers in the matter of Peor. Remember that? That story happens right before we get to this portion this week. That portion could be interesting to talk about. It's got the story, and you could bring up the story of Bilaam and how that was what he advised Israel's enemies to do. That was the way to get in to help destroy Israel, which was awful, to entice their men with these unbelieving women, and that's what happened. But in this week's portion, in Numbers 26, we have a census first of all the tribes of Israel. This census is interesting because it lists all the men of Israel after the 40 years in the wilderness. So this is the final census before they go into the land. And as I read the census, I wrote them down and realized that they had not mentioned the tribe of Levi. I'm looking at my list. Well, then I turned the page and I said, oh, well, there's Levi over there. So, so they were all accounted for. And they didn't put Levi in the first list because Levi does not inherit land. Mm-hmm. And so as I'm thinking about this, the average, I kind of averaged it out, and everybody, the average was about 40,000 or so, 50,000 for each tribe. But once I got to the next page, they only had like 23,000, so they were less. But they were mentioned and they were counted, and Levi does not inherit land with the rest of the tribes. Levi is different and special, so there's the census. And I didn't write down I did write down all the totals. It's like 6 million. This is where it's 6 million people plus. If you can, I think 601 million, 601,000, sorry. And then if you add Levi, it's like 624 or something like that. Then if you add in the women and children, you can easily say that there's at least 1 million people there. Because most men would have a wife, and then a lot of them are going to have kids. So, and this is all 20 years old and upward, I believe. So there will got to be at least 1 million people. But no one from the original pulling out of Egypt is there, except for Joshua and Caleb, and Moshe is still alive. So, but this is right before Moshe dies. So Joshua and Caleb are the only ones that were there that don't die. Everybody else died, and God was right. So now we come to the part where all the offerings made by fire to Yahweh are talked about. We just did that. This week I wrote them all down and made a document to share with you. The purpose of this is to be able to see all these in a brief way, to be able to quickly see what was going on with all these offerings. I'm not trying to get all into what was going on, really. I just want to be able to see what a bloody mess this must have been, and how much work it must have been, and how much, there's a lot to it, right? Especially during Sukkot. What a lot of animals. I'm not sure who was able to eat the meat of these offerings. I'm hoping everybody could eat it. I kind of assume because that's why you would have so much meat during Sukkot. Everybody's in Jerusalem. Everybody's having barbecue. I would hope. It would only make sense, and I already said this, one thing you can say about the Jews in those days is that they sure knew how to do a barbecue. Come one, come all, So after this, and thinking about how difficult it must have been to accomplish all this, my mind goes to what we have now in Yeshua. I have in mind to try to offer verses that show the contrast between what was necessary in the old times before Yeshua and what we have now because of what he did for us. Keep in mind Leviticus 22. Leviticus 22 says, "Whoever offers a sacrifice of peace offerings to Yahweh to accomplish a vow or a free will offering of the herd or of the flock, it shall be perfect to be accepted. It shall have no blemish. So all these animals that they got, they couldn't have a broken leg, they couldn't have a blemish on them, they had to be perfect. They were not the crummy ones, they were the good ones. Hebrews 9. Now, when these things had been thus prepared, the Kohanim always went into the first tabernacle, accomplishing the services. But into the second, the Kohen Gadol alone, once in the year, that's on Yom Kippur, would only go one time in the year into the Holy of Holies, and not without blood, which he offers for himself first, and for the errors of the people. The Ruach HaKodesh is indicating this, that the way into the holy place was not yet revealed while the first tabernacle was still standing. This is a symbol of the present age, where gifts and sacrifices are offered that are incapable concerning the conscience of making the worshiper perfect. Being only with foods and drinks and various washings, fleshly ordinances imposed until a time of reformation. But Messiah came as a Kohen Gadol of the good things to come, through the greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is, not of this creation, the heavenly tabernacle, not through the blood of bulls and calves, but through his own blood. He entered once for all into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption. It's so huge. This is where the verse is, for if the blood of bulls and goats and bulls and the ashes of a heifer, sprinkling those who have been defiled, sanctify to the cleanness of the flesh, how much more will the blood of Messiah, who through the eternal Ruach offered himself without blemish to God, cleanse your conscience? How much more will he cleanse your conscience from dead works to serve the living God? And that's what it boils down to either way, whether you're talking about the sacrifices of the Old Testament or the sacrifice of Yeshua. It's to cleanse your conscience from dead works to serve the living God. That's what it's all about. So when it says that Yeshua entered into the holy place, it is not talking about the Holy Holies in the temple in Jerusalem. No, it's talking about the Holy of Holies in the temple in heaven. That's where his redemptive work was accomplished. Remember how the tabernacle was a copy? So in the Brit Chadashah readings for this week, some of it anyway, we were in the book of Acts chapter 2. I'd like to, we had her read the Brit Hadashah, and it came to the thing where it's like, and then didn't get to read the verses. Well, I'll read the verses. Sorry. I just wanted it to be kind of short. I'd like to read a bunch of this chapter 2 because it shows the story of the first experience of mankind with the new birth. Just before we get there, though, in chapter 1, we see the instructions of Yeshua to his disciples just before he was taken up. Acts chapter 1, verse 8. But you will receive power when the Ruach HaKodesh has come upon you, and you will be witnesses to me in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Samaria and to the uttermost parts of the earth. Then in chapter 2, we begin in verse 1. When the day of Shavuot had come, they were all with one accord in one place. And suddenly there came from heaven a sound like the rushing of a mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. Tongues like fire appeared and were distributed to them, and one sat on each of them. And they were all filled with the Ruach HaKodesh and began to speak with other tongues as the Ruach gave them ability to speak. Now, I've seen multiple people try to make a picture of this, and there's no way. You don't know what it looked like. Maybe there was maybe a little flame of fire on each guy. Maybe like a whole, I've seen somebody that did like a whole huge flame from the top coming down, and it was like each each person then had a flame coming down. I don't know. We don't know what it looked like. But we know it was special. Now because Yeshua had promised, wait for the promise of the Father. It's going to come. Well, this is it. Promise of the Father is coming right now. Now there were dwelling in Jerusalem Jews, devout men from every nation under heaven. Why? Because it's Shavuot. And when this sound occurred, the multitude came together and were confused because everyone heard them speaking in his own language. I believe that the disciples did not know what they were saying, but they were speaking in tongues, and out came these words, and we got a whole list, we'll just say it. And they were all amazed and marveled, saying to one another, Behold, are not all these who speak Galileans? They know what Galileans sound like. These are not sounding like Galileans. And how do we hear everyone in our own native language? Parthians and Medes and Elamites, those dwelling in Mesopotamia, Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt and the parts of Libya around Cyrene, visitors from Rome, both Judeans and proselytes, Cretans and Arabians, we hear them speaking in our own tongues the mighty works of God. Words from God coming out of their mouths in the people's own language, magnifying God and talking about the mighty works of God. It's awesome. So they were all amazed and perplexed, saying to one another, What does this mean? Others mocking said, These are filled with new wine, they're drunk. But Peter, standing up with the 11, lifted up his voice and spoke out to them, Men of Judea, and all who dwell at Jerusalem, let this be known to you, and listen to my words. For these are not drunken as you suppose, seeing it is only the third hour of the day. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. But this is what has been spoken through the prophet Joel. It will be in the end of days, says God, that I will pour out my Ruach. This is Joel. I will pour out my Ruach on all flesh. And your sons and your daughters will prophesy. And your young men will see visions. And your old men will dream dreams. It's Joel said this. And on my servants and on my maidservants, in those days I will pour out my Ruach, and they will prophesy. And I will show wonders in the earth above, and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke. The sun will be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and glorious day of Yahweh comes. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will call on the name of Yahweh will be saved. That's what just happened in this moment. All those people who called on Yahweh were saved. Men of Israel, hear these words. Yeshua of Nazareth, a man approved to God to you by miracles, wonders, and signs which God did through him among you, just as you yourselves also know, him being delivered up by the determined counsel and foreknowledge of God, you have taken by the hand of lawless men. He just pointed his finger at them. You have taken, crucified, and killed, whom God raised up, having freed him from the agony of death, because it was not possible that he should be held by it. For David says concerning him, this is a quote from David, I saw Yahweh always before my face, for he is on my right hand that I should not be moved. Therefore my heart was glad and my tongue rejoiced. Moreover, my flesh also will dwell in hope, because you will not leave my soul in Sheol, neither will you allow your Holy One to see decay. You made known to me the ways of life. You will make me full of gladness with your presence. This is David talking. Back to Peter. Peter says, Brothers, I may tell you freely of the patriarch David, that he both died and was buried, and his tomb is with us to this day. So it wasn't talking about David. Therefore, being a prophet, David was a prophet, and knowing that God had sworn with an oath to him that of the fruit of his body, according to the flesh, he would raise up the Messiah to sit on his throne. David got that prophecy, and you see it especially in the book of Chronicles. He, foreseeing this, spoke about the resurrection of the Messiah, that his soul was not left in Sheol, and his flesh did not see decay. This Yeshua, God raised up, to which we all are witnesses. Therefore, being exalted by the right hand of God, and having received from the Father the promise of the Ruach HaKodesh, he has poured out this, which you now see and hear. So this is Peter explaining what just happened. For David did not ascend into the heavens, but he says himself, Yahweh said to my Lord, sit by my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. Therefore, let all the house of Israel know certainly that God has made him both Lord and Messiah, this Yeshua whom you have crucified. Man, he's not messing around. Now when they heard this, they were cut to the heart and said to him, Peter and the rest of the emissaries, Brothers, what shall we do? Then Peter said to them, Repent and be immersed, every one of you, in the name of Yeshua the Messiah for the forgiveness of sins, and you will receive the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh. For the promise is to you and to your children and to all who are afar off, even as many as Adonai Eloheinu will call to himself. And with many other words he testified and exhorted them, saying, Save yourselves from this crooked generation. We still need to do that today.
Yes.
Then those who gladly received his word were immersed, and there were added that day about 3,000 souls. That's the first day of the body of Messiah. The first day. This was the first time anyone in the world ever got born again with the new birth we have today. This day is the original outpouring of God's own Ruach HaKodesh, or Holy Spirit, that we still enjoy today. Until this day, the new birth was not available. It was not available until Yeshua had accomplished his sacrifice for mankind. It was hidden in God until the end of days came that were prophesied by Jeremiah. Remember Jeremiah said that, I will pour out my spirit on all flesh and all that? He was talking about this. The outpouring of the Spirit was not hidden. Jeremiah talked about it. But the mystery of God and Messiah in the believer, that was hidden. In Colossians chapter 1 we read, The mystery which has been hidden for ages and generations, but now it has been revealed to his holy ones, to whom God was pleased to make known what are the riches of the glory of this mystery among the Gentiles, which is Messiah in you, the hope of glory. So when we walk, Messiah walks. He's in us. If we but allow him to walk and to work through us, wherever we go, it's Messiah going. We proclaim him, admonishing every man and teaching every man in all wisdom, that we may present every man perfect in Messiah Yeshua, for which I also labor, striving according to his working, which works in me mightily. So that's Paul talking. We, as believers in Yeshua, are no longer required to offer animal sacrifices to God. We don't need to, because Yeshua paid the entire price for our reconciliation to God. Everything, 100%.
Amen.
Also, we don't need to, because the temple is no longer standing on this earth anyway. At least not the physical temple made of stone, but there still is a temple in heaven. It's not gone. It's there. That one does not go away, and that one was the pattern for the one that was made on earth. Now, in these days, according to 1 Corinthians, we are the temple of God. In 1 Corinthians chapter 3, 16, do you not know that you, well, it says you here, but I know it's ye. In the Greek, it's plural. Ye. It's not talking about one individual. It's talking about you people. You, body of Christ people, are a temple of God, and that the Ruach Elohim lives in you, all of you. If anyone defiles the temple of God, God will destroy him. We have to be careful not only about how we live our own lives, we have to be careful about how we treat each other. It's important. That's why the devil gets in there. That's why he tries to destroy us this way. So, if anyone defiles the temple of God, God will destroy him, for the temple of God is holy, and that is what you are. God, that's big. 1 Corinthians chapter 6. This is the other one. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Ruach HaKodesh, who is in you, whom you have from God? You are not your own. You don't belong to yourself anymore. You belong to Yeshua. For you were bought with a price.
Yes.
It was a big price, too. Therefore, glorify God in your body. That's Paul talking again. First, 2 Corinthians chapter 6. Go another book over. And what agreement does the temple of God have with idols? For you, collectively, ye are the temple of the living God. As God has said, I will dwell in them and walk among them. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Ephesians chapter 2. So then you, ye plural again, are no longer strangers and foreigners, but you are fellow citizens with the holy ones, and of the household of God, being built on the foundation of the emissaries and prophets, Messiah Yeshua himself being the chief cornerstone. Okay, so we're no longer strangers and foreigners. We are fellow citizens with the holy ones and of the household of God. Like, we come home, God's there, this is our household. This is who we belong to. We're in the family. And Yeshua is the chief cornerstone, in whom the whole building, fitted together, grows into a holy temple in the Lord. That's all of us. In whom you also are built together for a habitation of God in the Ruach. It's bigger than we can understand. I think it's bigger than we can understand. It's huge. And there's that verse that says, he's going to give us beyond what we can ask or think. That's coming. We already have big stuff right now. So, fitted together for a habitation of God in the Ruach. All right. 1 Peter 2. I'm quoting a bunch of the same verses I've quoted before, but maybe it's just because that's what it should be. I don't know. But 1 Peter chapter 2, living stones. Coming to him, a living stone, rejected indeed by men, but chosen by God, precious. You also as living stones. So first of all, it's talking about Messiah. He is the chief cornerstone. We come to him. He's rejected by men, but he is accepted by God. We come to him, the living cornerstone. You also, every one of us, as living stones, are built up as a spiritual house, which is a wonderful thing. So this is just further explaining again what he's been saying, what God has been trying to say throughout these epistles. So we are built up to be a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices, acceptable to God through Yeshua the Messiah. What are these spiritual sacrifices we are to give? Well, for sure, we are to offer the sacrifice of praise to our God. We owe him our lives. We should be thanking him as our lifestyle. Every day, all the time, like David did in Psalm 27. By the way, in our reading today, that psalm, twice it said offering sacrifice of praise. Today. Psalm 27. I'll read about half of it. Verse 1, Yahweh is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Yahweh is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When evildoers came at me to eat up my flesh, even my adversaries and my foes, they stumbled and fell. Yeah, they were trying to kill him, but they fell down. Though an army should encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. This is what David has learned. Because an army did come against him, and he did fear sometimes. Though war would rise against me, even then I will be confident. One, one thing I have asked of Yahweh, that I will seek after, that I might dwell in the house of Yahweh all the days of my life. To behold the beauty of Yahweh and to inquire in his temple, for in the day of trouble he will keep me secretly in his shelter. In the secret place of his tabernacle he will hide me. He will lift me up on a rock. Now my head will be lifted up above my enemies around me. I will offer sacrifices of joy in his tent. I will sing, yes, I will sing praises to Yahweh. Sacrifices of joy are zivchei teruah. Zivchei, a zavach, is an offering. A teruah is a shout or a blast. So it's not just necessarily a quiet thing. He's saying zivchei teruah. Yom teruah, you know what that is? The day of the blast, right? Zivchei teruah, that's what he's talking about. It's big. It's like not just a little quiet thing. It's like, yeah, all in, all in. So, this is the reason we do worship music at Bat Zion. The purpose is to allow all of us to come together and to worship the Lord together, offering the sacrifice of praise on our lips to God, giving him the glory and the praise that he so richly deserves. We should engage in this with our whole heart, with passion. This is not to be a lackadaisical time, but a time of pressing in, a time of opening our heart to him, offering our heart and our very lives to him. It's the least we can do. We owe him our very existence. We will be with him forever. I've read the beginning of the chapters of Revelation where the throngs are before the throne. I've also read Isaiah where their throngs are before the throne and they say, holy, holy, holy is Yahweh Tsebaot, right? I see myself there in that throne. Yeah, I think we're all there. That's a lot of what eternity is all about in my estimation. Praising the Most High God in heaven for his attributes, for his mercy, for his goodness, and chesed to me and to all mankind. Thanking our Lord Messiah Yeshua for giving his life the way he did, that we have been allowed to pass from death to life, from darkness to light. You know, because it was that. We did pass from darkness to light and from death to life. I did not have life before I had Yeshua. Like it says in the Peanuts show, that's what it's all about, Charlie Brown. Jeremiah 17. This is about the Sabbath. This is the Sabbath section in Jeremiah where he's talking about it. But the reason I'm reading this because it does end up with the offering the sacrifices of thanksgiving. So I'll just read it. This is what Yahweh says: be careful and bear no burdens on the Shabbat day, nor bring it in by the gates of Jerusalem. Well, I carry burdens today, but and I do pretty much every Shabbat. But I consider it my priestly duty. The priests had to work on Shabbat, so they had to do the animals. They had to do all that stuff, and because
You were not guilty.
No, right. And so I consider myself as a priest of God, not after the Levitical order, but after in Yeshua. So I consider myself a priest, and that's why I am. So I'm working on Shabbats. But do not carry a burden out of your houses on Shabbat day. Do not work do not do any work, but make this Shabbat day holy, as I commanded your fathers. But they did not listen. They did not turn their ear, but made their neck stiff, that they might not hear, and might not receive instruction. It will happen, if you diligently listen to me, says Yahweh, to bring in no burden through the gates of this city on the Sabbath day, but to make the Sabbath day holy, to do no work therein. Then there will enter in by the gates of the city kings and princes sitting on the throne of David, riding in chariots and on horses. They and their princes, the men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and this city will remain forever. This is okay, but let's remember what is going on right now. Israel has already been carried away. They're gone. Gone. And all there is this little batch of Judah left. And they are messing up bad. And Jeremiah is warning them repeatedly over and over and over again. If you return to God, He will heal you. But basically he's saying, look, you guys you're standing on the edge of the abyss and you got your foot on a banana peel. That's what it is. You're about to go down. And but he's saying right here, look, all you got to do is do the right things and God can bless you forever. But they don't hear him. So this is the situation we're in right here. And this is what he's trying to say, but unfortunately we know they didn't listen. So, but he's talking about the glory of kings coming in and all that. It's pretty amazing. It's, wonderful stuff. This city will remain forever, he said. And it will remain forever, but it wasn't long from this time that they got overrun. Babylon came in, trashed everything, destroyed the temple. Anyway, verse 26. And they will come from the cities of Judah, and from the land of Benjamin, and from the lowland, and from the hill country, and from the south, bringing burnt offerings, sacrifices, grain offerings, and frankincense, and bringing sacrifices of thanksgiving to the house of Yahweh. That's what we still do. But if you will not listen to me, to make the Sabbath day holy, and to bear a burden, and enter in at the gates of Jerusalem on the Sabbath day, then I will kindle a fire in its gates, and it will devour the palaces of Jerusalem. It will not be quenched, and that's what happens. So there's lots of sad stories in the Bible. So we no longer owe God any animal sacrifices, but we do owe him the sacrifice of praise from our lips. And we should focus in, we should go in and do it when we're supposed to do it. We should do it actually all day, every day, pretty much. But in Hebrews 13, we have an altar from which those who serve the holy tabernacle have no right to eat. That's different. We have an altar from which those who serve the holy tabernacle have no right to eat. That's what Paul. For the bodies of those animals whose blood is brought into the holy place by the Kohen Gadol as an offering for sin are burned outside the camp. Therefore, Yeshua also, that he might sanctify the people through his own blood, suffered outside the gate. Let us therefore go out to him, outside of the camp, bearing his reproach. For we do not have here on this earth an enduring city, but we seek that which is to come. Through him then, let us offer up a sacrifice of praise to God, continually, that is, the fruit of lips confessing his name. Man. But do not forget to be doing chesed and sharing, for with such sacrifices God is well pleased. The sacrifice of praise coming from our lips to God out of a heart of thanksgiving, this is a thing without blemish. It is perfect. It is well accepted by him. It's one thing he asks of us in this day and time. We ought to offer it willingly, with love, and with our whole heart. Shabbat shalom.